Live to see it, friends, and welcome to the World Transformed. This program is your guide to an astounding future that lies ahead, one that will be here sooner than you think, and one that you have an important role to play in bringing about. So when does this amazing future begin? Well, today is the day. My name is Phil Bowermaster, and with me in the virtual studio is my co-blogger, co-futurist, and co-host, Stephen Gordon. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, Phil. How are you?
Well, I'm super fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Doing great. Doing great. Excited about the show tonight.
Me too. Me too. It's here we are. It's Friday. Week's coming to an end. You got any big plans for the weekend?
I don't know. It seems like there's some sort of football game on this weekend. I might watch it. See how.
Depending, maybe if there's a rerun on Good Wife or whatever, just make a decision at that time. Well, I can guarantee you that
crying, something's terribly wrong.
For those watching live, 48 hours from now, I will be watching the Super Bowl. I will be watching Peyton Manning triumph as he wins his second Super Bowl, and the Broncos win their third Super Bowl. So go Broncos. Very excited about the Super Bowl. And why don't we just do a show talking about that? I got an awful lot to say about the Broncos this evening, Stephen. And seeing as I am predicting the future, and what's great is a few people are watching this live, a few people are watching this before Sunday, but most people who ever hear me talk about this or ever watch this video, it will have been a long time ago, won't it?
Yeah, so they'll know whether you are right on the money or not.
No, they'll go, oh, he was right. He nailed it. Yeah. That's what they're going to do.
There you go.
But that was easy. I mean,
yeah.
Future predictions should be as ezy as this one. The Broncos have it in the bag. Sorry, Seattle. Better luck next time.
It's like the Jets guarantee win. It's there you go,
it's that kind of thing. Anyway, very excited about the Super Bowl. But as you said, also very excited about our program this evening. This is what we did Wednesday to what we did today is a great bounce from one extreme to the other now, isn't it?
Yep. We had a very philosophical show talking about, the arguments for the existence of God on Wednesday, and
right.
Here we are talking, really a more usual subject matter for us, building the future.
Yeah, very nuts and bolts tonight. We're very nuts and bolts. It's not philosophy at all. We're talking about what is the future made of. Future's made of hopes, dreams, fears, possibilities. But you know what the future is made of, by golly? It's made of stuff. It's made of technology. It's made of the infrastructure that we create. It's made of the technology that brings all of our inventions together, that ties our knowledge together, that ties our physical goods together, and allows us to connect with each other in new ways, to live in new ways, and to take on new physical capabilities. So tonight, we're talking about building the future. And we're going to talk about some really concrete things that are taking place or that are planned for the near future that occur in the physical realm. And the first of these is very exciting. Stephen, you gave me this link, and I had not heard about this. And I used to work in telecom, so this is very exciting to me. South Korea is building a $1.5 billion 5G service that can download movies in 1 second. Now, for those who've been keeping track at home, in the U.S. we're up to 4G. Some of us sometimes, right? I mean, is that even the standard at this point? Do most people have 4G? I couldn't tell you. If
I think we're 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah.
I have 4G most of the time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm not in the most developed infrastructure-wise area of the country, so I presume that most people have 4G most of the time.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch South Korea. They have stayed on the cutting edge of, I should say, what does G mean? And we're talking about the generation of wireless service. Okay, it all goes back to 2G. The second generation of wireless service. South Korea was on the leading edge of that. They were with 3G, with 4G, and now they're going to be the first ones to roll out 5G. And each one of these generations of wireless service has brought about greater bandwidth, greater speeds, and just made us able to do many, many more things than we were able to do with our wireless devices than the previous generation allowed. The whole smartphone revolution is built on the evolution from 2G up through 4G. You can say that all this incredible stuff we do with our devices rests on these networks that make it possible. And I remember years ago talking with our friend Alex Lightman, who is a bit of a telecom enthusiast, about his big concern that we weren't going to get to 4G, that South Korea was already there, we would never get there. We weren't going to have true 4G, and it is a very competitive set of technologies. Although ultimately, it looks like the fact that we are not, the U.S. is not the leader in this space, hasn't hurt us that much. It's just that we don't get the cool stuff as fast as everybody else does, which I resent. But I don't, I don't know that it's
Well,
necessarily a bad thing on the global political spectrum. Or what do you
well,
think?
don't say everybody else because we're probably, we might be in the second tier of developed nations in getting this stuff,
True.
but we're not
I
sub-Saharan
should say
Africa.
anybody else. Yeah,
Yeah,
not so much everybody else. Yeah, but
yeah,
somebody else got it before we did,
yeah,
and
and doggone it, this is America, by God, and we should
yeah, we should.
get the stuff first. But yeah, I agree, and that's one of the things that South Korea, they look at this as a competitive advantage kind of thing.
Hmm.
We're the ones that rolling it out, and therefore come do business with us. We have this is just one aspect of the infrastructure that we have that makes it good to do business with us. And so, I appreciate why they're doing it. But what's cool about this, Phil, is I'm thinking well 4G is at this level, and so 5G, I would be impressed if it's double the speed of 4G. That would be very
Right.
impressive. But that's
Absolutely.
but that's not what 5G is going to be. It's 1,000 times as fast as 4G. Are you
Right.
kidding me? I mean, that's what in the world? That's incredible.
At that point, you go, okay, they're just kidding. That's
That's,
ridiculously fast, right? You would
that,
never
that,
need anything that fast.
yeah,
But we will look back on 5G as a slow primitive technology someday.
at some point, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we're at 10G, well, you remember when we had 5G and you know, a photorealistic virtual reality just wasn't really possible. Um, you know, so,
Well, here's a piece from the article that we've got linked here. It says 5G technology will allow users to download an 800 megabyte movie file in 1 second, compared with 40 seconds using 4G. So,
yeah.
don't even try it on a 3G phone, I'm
And,
thinking, right?
I laugh and gave that as an example of something you couldn't do with 5G. If you can download a movie in 1 second, real time photorealistic virtual reality ought to be doable with
Yeah,
5G.
we're getting close at that point now, aren't we?
Yeah,
Gee, yeah.
yeah. Any
Because
rate,
that is a lot of data. That's a lot of visual and audio data to
right.
get in a second.
Yeah, if you can do a 2 hour movie in a second, why can't you do real time in it? I mean, that would be easy actually by
Yeah.
comparison.
It,
Anyway,
it looks like 5G will be the kind of bandwidth. It's at least moving us in the direction of the kind of bandwidth we're going to need for true immersive virtual reality. Because that's going to take a
right.
lot of bandwidth for that now, isn't it? We're gonna need a lot. 5G won't be the end. But what's interesting here is that actually South Korea needs 5G in order to keep up with other infrastructure that's being built. They're not just building telecom networks in Asia. Here's another snippet from the article. Officials said the new service would also mean people on bullet trains running faster than 500 kph would even be able to access the internet compared with 300 kilometers per hour currently. Okay, so they got these. Go ahead, Stephen.
Apparently, there's a speed limit. You can't go. You can't take your bullet train above a certain speed and still be on the internet. Wow, I didn't know that was a
That's
concern.
fast. Those trains are booking. Yeah.
Living in the United States where we don't have bullet trains by and large, and we're having to deal with partial implementation of 4G. That's Crimea River, about your not being able, not being able to be on a bullet train and be on the internet too.
Well, for
And
the
that is a problem that the developed world should have.
yeah.
That's a great problem to have,
Yeah.
and so I'm glad they're addressing it. I kid because I admire is
Absolutely. Well, I mean, for those who are metric impaired, here's what we're talking about. Okay, they've got trains that are going 180 miles an hour. Okay, and that's fine. You can still get your 4G signal at that point. But they go any faster than that, it's just not going to work. Well, the thing is,
okay.
they're now building trains that will go 300 miles per hour. That's my quick estimate of 500 kph. 300 mile an hour trains, and yeah, they need a faster network so that it will still so that they can still download their movie in a second while they're on their 300-mile-an-hour trains. That's awesome. Okay, that's it's like
My thought is, how in the world are you going to have time to watch it because you're going to be there too
you'll
fast?
be there. Yeah, how big is South Korea for crying out loud? You got a train going 300 miles an hour. That's a great point you make. This is, I mean, clearly the U.S. is, if any country needs a 300-mile-an-hour train, it's us, right? Or
That's
Russia,
right.
right? Somebody with a,
We got the space. We
yeah,
need to cover some distance. I'm not sure because Korea is a peninsula, and what's north of there is North Korea, which you're not going into.
yeah. You're not hauling ass to get into North Korea, that's for sure.
You might be going the other direction as fast as you can.
Because I'll
But
tell you
anyway,
what, once you're up there, you're getting a 5G signal, that's for sure on your phone.
true.
That's not happening.
You see a picture from outer space of the Korean Peninsula, and South Korea is just lit up like a Christmas tree, and then there's like one little light in Pyongyang, in North Korea. It's
That is an
amazing.
amazing. I've seen that picture. It is
Yeah.
astounding. You look at that and you think, surely they doctor it, and
No.
I don't think they doctored it one little
Well,
bit. So there
well,
you go. If you want to take a trip into the future, visit South Korea. I mean, that's the bottom line there. If you want to see where they're building the future a little bit ahead of us, go to South Korea. Apparently, they have really awesome games too. I think you might need to be able to speak Korean, but it's probably worth it if you're really into games to pick that up and give it a try. But this is to me just a terrific example. I love reading about things like this. I think 5G is exciting. I think high-speed trains are awesome. I think that building a new network that's fast enough that it will support your high-speed trains is just, talk about first world problems that are being solved. Good for Korea, and looking forward to ultimately us enjoying some of those same technologies here. Now,
yeah.
speaking of technologies that we're looking forward to enjoying, there have been some who have been, which I should say, some technologies, coming technologies, which have been declared prematurely defunct. And let's tell us a little bit about that, Stephen.
Well, in on 60 Minutes, I don't, I'm not sure if it was. It would have been the Sunday before last for the people that are listening to this broadcast. There was Leslie Stahl had a program basically saying clean tech is dead, and and it went over the Solyndra problem and things like that, where a lot of tax dollars were pumped into something that just went completely belly up, and taxpayers lost a lot of money.
And and it should be
Things
noted
like
there
that.
have been several of these cases that occurred where
Yeah, it
big
exploded
high
about this
profile
before.
companies had tax money put into them. I think there were 9 of them, it says in this in the article, and nothing came of these companies and they failed.
Yeah,
And what
and
does
there's
that
some.
tell us about that sector? That's the question, right?
Yeah, and there's some that have said that it was just a way to divert money to supporters of various political people
Mm.
and things like that. So really, which just goes to show you, clean tech is just nothing but a fraud, right, Phil?
There you go.
Um,
It's just a big political boondoggle, apparently.
and which is just not true. It's over the period of time since basically solar has been around. There's been about 1,000-fold increase of price to performance, and it's in places that have a lot of sun and where energy costs are pretty high. Places like California and Hawaii, for example, we've already reached the point of what we call the solar singularity, and we call it that because the price of solar is comparable without subsidy to the price of being on the grid, and that's an important point at which people will buy more and more people will turn to solar,
Right.
and the fact of the matter is 2013, that we're at the year just passed, that Leslie Stahl was looking back on, more people installed solar panels than all other years combined before that. More people put solar on their homes in 2013 than all other years combined.
Yeah, or
So
the way I read it was the past 20 years, but surely there wasn't
yeah,
that much more going on
yeah,
before that. Yeah.
before that. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for the correction, but that's exactly right. So what why call it dead? It's I think it was just a mistake on their part. It's just a little bit of sloppy journalism, and because everyone's come to expect better out of 60 Minutes, a lot of people, there's been a bit of an outcry over this particular story.
Well, and it goes to show you how powerful a narrative can become. That people get used to saying something, and they start to believe that rather than what the actual evidence is telling us. Because I've read an awful lot of analysis that makes it look like, green tech has failed, is failing, it didn't work out, we've moved on. And the reality seems to be that, especially in solar, it's just the opposite. There's a graph in one of the articles, I guess it's this same article that we've got linked here, where they talk about the megawattage in the US produced by solar panels over the last, I guess, probably 20 years. And man, when you look at that, it's a hockey stick.
Yeah.
It looks like a graph out of the singularity is near. The term solar singularity is not at all inappropriate. We see so much more power being produced by solar today than at any time previously in history. The notion that that sector has failed or has died is really truly missing the story.
Right.
Not just missing it, but getting it exactly wrong. Getting it,
180 degrees wrong.
wrong. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's taking a few high profile cases and extrapolating from them and coming to the opposite conclusion from what's actually true. And this is how conventional wisdom comes into being, unfortunately. And I think that may slow solar progress a little bit, but right now it sure doesn't look like solar progress has got anything to worry about in terms of being slowed down, does it?
And I follow this stuff pretty closely. I find it fascinating, Phil. It seems like hardly a week goes by that there isn't some potential development just right around the bend where there where we can harvest more of the light spectrum. Perhaps some development like
Right,
that.
right.
And or we've examined we're backwards engineering the leaf. We're figuring out ways that that biology is doing it, and we're doing it a little more like that versus the standard photovoltaics. You hear, I mean, just all kinds of different ways that we're going to be harvesting the sun going forward. And of course, some will be winners and some will be losers. But the fact is, it's a hot area of research.
Right.
And so I would not want to be the one betting against it. I think that in a year or two, it already looks a little bit foolish. This story does, but I think in a year or two, it's going to look just dead wrong. Yeah.
And we should note that solar is not the only part of that sector. There's
Yeah.
renewable fuels. There have been some failures there, some things that didn't work out there. But the article addresses those as well. And also, electric cars is another one that's gotten a lot of attention, and apparently is treated in that story as something that has failed. When you look at
No,
Tesla and the
that's
success that they've had,
it's incredible
yeah,
that
you
they
can't
would
even
think.
begin to make that case. Yeah.
Yeah, Tesla is an incredible success story, and the battery tech that Tesla has pushed is now being looked at as ways that we can, basically harvest solar at our homes, store it for nighttime use. That the tech is come along so nicely there in that battery tech that for someone who really wants to be completely off the grid.
Right.
That technology is becoming more and more feasible as well, and in part thanks to some of the developments by Tesla and others.
In
So
addition to producing one of the coolest looking cars in the history of cars.
that's right, and one that would beat from a stop sign would beat any other luxury exotic sports car because it just has
Absolutely. It's got that electrical motor. Boom.
yeah,
Right? You
that's
can't.
right. It has an incredible ability to accelerate from a stop.
And we
It's
should note that Tesla repaid their government loans 9 years ahead of schedule. So not only is it not a big government boondoggle, not only is it not a big waste of money, you look at Tesla and you say, well, we want everyone not only in green energy, but in any developing technology to look at what they're doing and be like Tesla. I mean, they're
yeah.
just it's a great case study for how to do business. And
What's funny about the story, Phil, is I know we don't have a lot of time, but towards the end of the story, she's talked bad about these things, but then she says, And you know what? China got all this stuff from us. They stole it.
Right. If it's not working, what difference does it make if China
Yeah.
got it? But in
What are we
fact,
supposed to be out? What are we supposed to be mad about?
yeah, she cites a Chinese company that has a U.S. subsidiary with 27 plants in 13 states. They've created 6,000 jobs for American workers. These are clean tech jobs. Um, Too bad the sector failed, I guess. Otherwise those jobs would have really been worth something. That those people are working at and earning their pay. Uh,
Anyway, I'm sure she'll. I'm sure she's going to redeem herself with a great story in the future. I'm sure she's a nice lady, but
yeah,
she
we're not
missed
here
the
to
boat.
beat up on Leslie Stahl for heaven's
Oh yeah,
sakes.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she missed the boat on this one.
For sure. Now, a couple other examples of building the future. This is something we've done a show on in the past. The idea of urban farming, high-rise farming, and there was a piece on Drudge where we've added this link into our notes. But this is a really interesting technology where you can perform agriculture in an urban space. Take an abandoned warehouse. An abandoned warehouse always has that super villain layer feel to it when you use that term. But any large building that's not being used for another purpose can actually be used for agriculture. And I haven't read this article, but I assume that there's talk in there of hydroponics, of new technology for pushing sunlight down deeper and deeper into an enclosed space. But there's a lot of advantages to this technology, primarily because you are growing the food right where people are going to be consuming the food. So all the advantages we hear about, consume local products. Well, if you can grow the food right in the city where it's going to be consumed, you're saving an awful lot of energy in terms of transporting it. People are getting fresh food, et cetera, et cetera. It looks like a very promising area, doesn't it?
It does. This particular designer is Vincent Calabot. That's mentioned in this particular story. What he is designing here is not he's not taking existing buildings and converting them. He is designing a 132 floor building that's sort of it's interesting because it's twisted as it goes up in order to allow maximum sunlight
All
to
right.
reach each level. I thought that
And
was
looks cool too, as a
oh,
result,
it
I'm
looks
sure.
awesome. It
Yeah.
looks great. And the point is, he's recycling the water. He's recycling the biomass. He's producing food. Apartments are in the middle of this as part of his design too, so that people can live in the middle of this greenery. In the middle, which I would imagine it would be very nice to
Oh yeah.
live in a urban
Especially in a
environment.
city, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're surrounded by basically each floor is a kind of got a park in it. You can walk through and you walk through an orchard on your way to the elevator, I guess, in the morning. But it's a fantastic idea. I would love to live in one of these in the future. 132 floors, that's huge. That'd be a very tall building.
Very tall skyscraper producing food. Just
Yeah.
what a fantastic idea, and a nice little slice of what the future is going to look like. Now here's one that feels even more futuristic, and this is addressing a problem that is not something that's maybe on our radar all that big right now, but something that we are going to be increasingly aware of and is going to be a bigger and bigger problem, which is cleaning up space junk. For those who've seen the movie, oh, now I can't think of the name of it, with George Clooney and Sandra Bullock, and they're out in space.
Gravity.
Gravity.
Yeah.
I believe that the whole horrible set of circumstances that are dealt with in that movie is kicked off by space junk. Space junk
That's
causes
right.
causes the problem, and as we increase our footprint in space, the risk that all these little bits and pieces floating around there in near Earth orbit represent is going to be greater and greater. We've got hundreds of thousands of pieces of spacecraft, satellites, and other equipment that are just up there. They're in orbit and they're not being tracked. We don't know what they are. We don't know when they're going to turn up. And according to this article, it says a fragment as small as a centimeter across could completely disable a spacecraft. So that gives you a feel for how big space is. That like the space station's up there all this time, and so far nothing has bumped into it and shut it down. But it wouldn't take much to make that happen. And the thing is, as long as the space station's up there, as long as we're sending satellites up, there are more and more and more of these items. And the risk that they represent it gets greater. There's what's called the Kessler syndrome. Donald Kessler in the 1970s, he said if you get too much trash up there, they're going to start colliding with each other, and that creates even more debris. So the problem kind of compounds itself. Eventually, you end up kind of like with a ring, like
Wally.
like like Saturn. Yeah, it's very exactly. It's very very dangerous situation. So what do we do about it? Well, the Japanese have come up with an idea. Let's put a big net up there, a big electromagnetic aluminum and steel net that will function essentially as a spider web. They will look for shiny things that are approaching. They'll move up to grab them, catch as many pieces of debris as the net will hold. When it's big enough, they'll decay the orbit and burn all that stuff up on reentry. It's a wonderful, elegant suggestion, isn't it?
It is, and I just love the image of it. You know, I mentioned Wally because in that movie, you know, as Wally's going into space, you know, you got a ring around the Earth with all this space junk.
Right, right,
Orbit is as polluted as the planet is. You know,
right. It's a
it's
mess.
pretty
Yeah.
bad. You can just imagine these little, little Wallies in space, you know, gathering up stuff and then re-entering and burning it up. It's like you say, it's an elegant idea. And you know, I think that something like that could function autonomously. You could have something that just seeks and finds and gathers up a full bag of trash and heads on home. You know, that's a really cool and good way of going about it. I wonder if how expensive it would be to come up with something that would work properly.
Price point's going to be important, but ultimately, what it prevents happening, it probably makes it worth doing. Well, there you have it. Nets in space collecting junk, skyscrapers producing food for cities. We've got high-speed trains. We've got 5G networks. We've got clean energy. The future is looking very bright and very exciting. Stephen, what is our music?
The music tonight is "Wide Awake" by the One Twos.
The One Twos singing Wide Awakes. Thanks, Stephen, for putting that together. All our great music this week. Thank you all for being with us. We'll be back again on Wednesday with an all-new World Transformed. And until next time, go Broncos and live to see it.